So our topic at hand today is kind of a special one, I guess. We don't do this terribly often, but it's been a little while since we've done this, so I think high time we do it again. At the end of 2025, we're recording this. So it's about getting the most out of your Snap-on scan tool. There's a lot of features and functions in a Snap-on scan tool. More than just the codes and data and the bidirectional controls. That's you know most aftermarket scan tools have those capabilities of codes, data, functional tests, that sort of thing. There's a lot of unique things to Snap-on scan tools, and that's what we're really going to kind of focus on today. Now, to keep all of this cool stuff at the ready, the most important thing is keeping the tool up to date. So all about software updates. Pretty much all of our, actually not pretty much, all of our modern tools in the last 4 or 5 years are able to do over-the-air updates. So they can just, if you have a active subscription, it'll just download in the background, and then you can go ahead and do an update. So here's an example of what you might see. There is a fairly recent update that just came out on the not Windows tools, so not Zeus and Varus, all the other ones, the Solus and Triton, all the ones that update over the air that are Solus, Triton, Apollo, and the MT2600 even. So if you see down here, there's the current software version on my tool. Most important thing is we need to make sure that it is on Wi-Fi. If it's not on Wi-Fi, it's not going to be able to get the updates. It's also not going to be able to get access to a lot of this other stuff I'm talking about, just because a lot of it is served off a server. So Wi-Fi is important. Once the Wi-Fi is on, in this example, it didn't take very long before an update was downloading, and you see that little icon up there with a little down arrow indicates that it is downloading an update. Once it is done, you'll see a little check mark, and then you'll also see a little dot down here next to the gears in Tools. So that's where we're going to go next, into Tools. And then we have software updates available. And then it'll say it's downloaded, and we can just install it. The latest update is a performance update. It's only 15 megs. Doesn't take very long to download. This whole process took me about 3.5 minutes a couple weeks ago. Go through and do install now. Check off the terms and agreement. Agree and continue. And then it's going to install the update. Doesn't take very long. And then we'll restart the scanner. And then now you'll see down the bottom, it says 25.4b. So that is the newest, latest version on the Solus Plus and the Apollo Plus and the Apollo D9 and the Triton D10 and the Triton, the new Triton that came out, and the MT2600 and all those style tools that do over-the-air updates. This update is not needed on the Zeus Plus, but it is available for all the other tools seen here. Okay. Next one, been getting a ton of requests for this lately. Dark mode. Now, some folks don't realize that the tool they may already have a dark mode on it. So this will apply once again to not the Zeus. The Zeus, the software is a little bit different. It doesn't have a dark mode, but I have put in a request for that. So hopefully we'll see that sometime in the future. Windows can do a dark mode, but the software itself doesn't have a dark mode. But on your Soluses and your Apollos and your Tritons and your MT2600s and all those tools, those do have a dark mode on there. So let's walk through how we're going to do this. So this also, just let me preface this with, this class is a little bit different than what we usually do. Going to be some slides on a topic and then go on the tool, and we're going to be a lot of back and forth, just so you're aware. So let's go live on the tool and show you how to activate dark mode on a not Zeus, because everything but a Zeus is able to do that. So let me get this up on the screen here. There we go. All right, so I have a Triton up here on the screen. What we would do is we would go over to where it says tools right there. And then we would go to settings. And then we want to go to system settings. And then display. And then you see we have color theme right now set to day theme. So by default, the majority of them are set to day theme. You can go in there, go to night theme. And now I have dark mode. All right, so I'm in there and I have my dark mode on. Go back into tools, settings, system settings, display, and we can change it again. Now there's also a high contrast. So there's a light high contrast, which has a light bar on the top. And then there is a dark high contrast, which has a dark bar on the top. And then just the default is going to be my default with the brushed stuff. We also have a normal or bold font, which you can add in there. So bold might make it a little easier to see for some people. And then there's normal font size and large font size. It's a little bit bigger. That's mainly for the MT2600 where the screen is so small. So that'll make it a bit bigger. And then your backlight timeout time and your overall display brightness is available in there. So just so you know, that is how you would set up dark mode on your tool. Easy enough. So some of you have been asking for dark mode, may not have known that you had dark mode, and now you do. Now, if you have a Zeus, like I said, working on it, software's a little bit different. Next section is going to be data services. So a lot of the things that you can access through your Snap-on Scan tool now are available over the internet, over the what we call data services, which would be the Snap-on Cloud services, Fast Track Intelligent Diagnostics, and the SureTrack information, among others, like Security Link, for example. Another thing that you can do is pre and post scans will upload to the Snap-on Cloud for further sharing, right? So pre-scan is going to document when it needs to be repaired, gives you a list of codes on there that might need to be fixed. Post-scan is going to document once the repair has been completed, and it does automatically upload to the Snap-on Cloud. Once I'm there in the Snap-on Cloud, I can share that report with my customers or other people in the shop or what have you. So I can always use my phone, my tablet, or PC, or a Mac, doesn't really matter. Anything with a web browser is able to connect to this website, which we're going to talk about a little bit more in depth here in a minute. To be able to talk to altusdrive.com, which is where we would share those files. Now, if you don't have an altusdrive.com set up or a profile set up, you should. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything, and you can manage all of these different functions from your account. And actually, we just made an improvement very recently where you can manage more than just this from your account. And I'm going to show you that here in a minute when we go live on the web. But a good place to start is altusdrive.com, A-L-T-U-S, drive.com. And then you create an individual account here, and that will allow you to access all of these things and more. Plus the pre and post scans, which is important. All right, next part is SureTrack. So we'll talk about how SureTrack functions and what is available to you, right? So we call it the fastest path to fix. So this is our experience-based information. So it's based on billions and billions of real-world repairs that have been done that we go through, checking for complaint cause correction. And then it's going to give you the complaint cause correction for that problem. So there are tens of millions of real fix tips available, readily available on your scan tool. And that's pretty much any tool that we make except for the MT2600s. So anything from a Solus Plus and up, it is going to be available on there as long as you're hooked up to Wi-Fi and your software is up to date. So here's one example of real fix, complaint cause correction. This is for a PO101 and PO171. Ended up being mass airflow problem. Place mass airflow sensor cleared codes and verify the vehicle operated properly. Any related real fixes are going to be also listed on the tool. They're going to be ranked from most to least. So sometimes it's, here's a very common thing. Sometimes you've done all the common things and you need to do something else. So you come down here, for example, replace the PCV valve. Maybe that caused the problem. Now right there, that confirms 72 people had that problem. Also, our industry expert information. So these are articles, these are troubleshooter tips written by real live people, real live techs out there in the field. And this is just a really good example on 2015 Grand Cherokee, a U0403, those super fun U codes, communication codes. Invalid data received from the transfer case. So this has a time saver in it. It says, before condemning the vehicle's transfer case module, it's advised to check the ground strap for the ABS module, because apparently they share. It has been reported in the field that a population of Grand Cherokees left the factory with the ground strap not fully tightened. There have been several cases where tightening this ground connection resolves the problem. So there you go. So this is based on, like I said, we have people that work for us that write these. This is their job. They write tips and tricks all day long, and you have access to that readily available. So if you had a 2015 Jeep Cherokee with that code, you would go down and you would find that under the troubleshooter tips. So pretty helpful. We've had that since 1992, by the way. So what's that? 33 years. Holy cow. And we also have the top repairs graph. This is probably the most visible thing that I think anybody sees on our scan tool because it's right on the top. Generally speaking, once I go in under a code, So in this case, it's top repairs graphed over mileage. So it's up to 200,000 miles distance. And then the number one overall, adding all these up, comes up to 166. And then the number one thing is right there at 125,000 miles, which is the mass airflow sensor. That must be that P0101 code again. And did you know that you have access to a lot of this information on the web? If you have an individual account, which we talked about earlier, so in the Altus Drive account, you have access. If you go to shopkeypro.com, you have a limited access to ShopKey information, which would be the SureTrack information. So one big thing that is part of that is the top 10 lists. So these top 10 lists are based on our billions of repair records. And in this case, on a 2016 Tahoe, 222,590 repairs available out of those 3.1 billion or so. Interestingly enough, with these, you can maybe find out, are there common problems with these vehicles? And if you're a service writer or trying to get more work from a customer, perhaps you might look through this and see, hey, number one symptoms, AC and up by a lot. Number 1 and 2, pads and rotors, that's pretty common for a vehicle of that age, but AC refrigerant, number 3, and then AC condenser, number 6. And then if I go over here, these are the top 10 things punched in the search box. Number 3 is condenser, number 9 is condenser spelled a different way. So all readily available to look at and see, hey, does this thing have a problem with condenser? And sure enough, they do. They have a problem with them cracking. But if you didn't know that, or if your customer didn't know that, you can say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, how's your AC doing? Might you want us to take a look at that while we're here? Sure. Another one is causes and fixes. So we call this ProView. So the unique thing about this is it takes that data that would be on the graph normally, and it does code combinations. It also does symptoms. But in this case, we have code combinations. So for this vehicle, a P0171 could be any of these things. Number 1 ranking is the oxygen sensor, then the mass airflow, etc. But it could be any of those things. However, if I have these two codes in combination, not just a 171, but a cat code is P0420 as well, it ends up being the oxygen sensor 40 times out of that. So I think that's pretty great, where you can do these code combinations. You can click on the different combos, and it'll come up and give you that information. Right? Here's another example of what you would get access to. All you need is up-to-date Snap-on software and a free Snap-on account in order to access this information. So this is based on our community posts. So you have a community that you can join that you're already a part of. You may not even know you can access. You can go in there and you can post questions. You can also answer questions, get help from the general community. And it's all people who are using Snap-on tools, right? This is a 2012 Ram, intermittent no start, replace battery cables. Customer states truck will not start intermittently. Starter will engage for a split second, click, and then nothing happens. Happens randomly, and if you turn the key 3 times to click the starter, the truck starts. Moderate voltage at the relay and found condition happens. No voltage at the PCM terminal on the relay to turn on the starter. So it goes through a few different things, and what it ends up being is you may want to perform a voltage drop on both battery cables. Sometimes internal corrosion cannot be seen, but when tested, found resistance to be high. And sure enough, they tested it, found there was a problem. Replace battery cables, clean the battery terminals, and truck now starts consistently. So that was a tip from the community, and that was a no code situation, right? So there we go. All right, let's go live on the website. So I'm going to go first to altusdrive.com. Right? So this is where I said you'd want to go if you don't have a Snap-on account, you want to create an individual account and go in there. I'm going to go in. I already have an account, so I'm just going to manage my existing account. I'm going to let you log in one time. All right, so there's your information. You can come down here under shop information, plug that information in if you want. That'll print out on any reports. Device management is going to be all of my devices that are linked to the account. And then security link would be where I'd manage any of my like FCA, Mercedes, Nissan. All that information needs to be in here. And then your auto-auth credentials need to be in here as well. And it also links you to auto-auth from there if necessary. Now, one thing that we have done very recently, this is only in the last couple of weeks, You'll notice on many of our websites, we have these 9 boxes up there. And if you go to those 9, actually, these are behind my head. I understand that now that they're behind my head. Let me shrink this down a little bit. Maybe do that. That might work a little better. Let's go like this. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Made it too big. All right, let's go over here. Do this. Do this. Oh, come on. Struggling with the Google Chromes. I got 3 monitors going on here. All right, that's good enough. Let's see how I'm looking over here on the Zoom. I'm not even up to date. Let's see. There we go. All right. Should be out of the way now. My head should be out of the way. I think by quite a bit. On the top right of the website, there is a 9-box square thing. If you click on that, it gives you access to pretty much all of our websites. There's actually 11 of them. So Altus Drive gives you brings you right to Altus Drive. ShopKey, if you have a ShopKey subscription, brings you there. Pro Demand, same deal. Truck Series, Sun Collision. So those are our 4 information products. Any notifications. Security Link will bring you right to your Security Link page. Device Management brings you to that Device Management page. Support brings you to our tech support list of people. Tech Profile brings you your profile. And then Shop Profile, if you have ShopKey Pro, Pro Demand, Sun Collision, Truck Series, you actually have a shop profile associated with you as well. So there's 2 different types of accounts. So Shop Profile is to manage all of that stuff. And then your Tech Profile is to manage like your Security Link and stuff like that. So I'm going to pop back over to Altus Drive and log in over there. And this is where my uploads will be. All right. So any of my screenshots, pre and post scans, etc. are going to link to this. I don't know if I have any pre and post scans for a while. There we go. There's a vehicle system report right there. So that brings in my scan data report. All right, vehicle health check. So pretty useful. Everything can be accessed now right from there, which makes life a lot easier. And like I said, it's only been a couple of weeks since we've had that. So definitely very helpful. Now I'm going to pop over to ShopKey. And I need to log out and log in with a different account. I need to log in with my tech account. That's my shop account that I just logged into. Stop. Because I have my username and password saved. Okay, looks like that's not working tonight because it's supposed to have your devices in here, and my Triton should be in here. All right. So normally you'd be able to access the SureTrack information. All you need is a current scan tool or a scan tool that is current in your account. So actually, let me delete this and let me re-add it. So show you how to do that as well. Might as well, right? So on my scan tool, under tools, which I try to click, there's get connected right here, right? So that is going to give you all the information that you need to get into this account. So that's right there, serial number, PIN, and code. So I'm going to go through here. I'm going to add the device. And I'm going to go. Okay, PIN is automatically generated, so don't leave the screen that you're on, as well as the code is automatically generated by the server. Okay, now let's see. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. Let's see. Let's find out. If it doesn't work, then there's a glitch. Okay, there must be a glitch. All right. So let me show you what it would look like anyways. You would come in here and you pick a vehicle. I'm just going to pick my Forester. Okay. And then you would get access to all these top 10 lists. And then if you go into the system, you would get access to anything that says SureTrack on it. So real fixes, top repairs, causes and fixes, tips, all of that information is available to you. Now, since I have a ShopKey subscription, I also get the OEM info side of things. But anything that says SureTrack, like these causes and fixes that I just showed you, right? So if we go to these different code combinations, most of it leads the oxygen sensor, honestly, but depends on the vehicle. And then we could have a symptom too. Engine runs rough, lacks power, shifts hard. So all related kind of to that PO171 code, right? So that's your online stuff. And like I said, that is free and readily available to you as long as you have a Snap-on scan tool with current software on it. All right, let's go to the next thing, which is going to be service resets and relearns. So service resets and relearns is available on any of the intelligent diagnostics tools plus the Veris Edge. So this is a quick link to multiple things. So anything that can be reset or relearned on the vehicle. Now that this does not remove the actual functional tests and resets from any of the modules. You could go in them individually if you want to and find them there. This just links them to related jobs, and sometimes they might be in multiple modules, which we're going to see here in a minute. So in order to access those, you would have to make multiple clicks. Otherwise, we can just go into service resets and it'll allow us to do it for us. So for example, in this case, we have where you can reset the oxygen sensor on a GM, right? So you pull it up, it's going to give you any of the bidirectional controls, functional tests, on-off things, and then any associated resets and relearns that are necessary for them. So let's walk through that. So I'm going to go on I got my 2016 Tahoe here, service resets. Now, actually, before I go to service resets, on many GM vehicles, they have a brake pedal position sensor. It's not a brake light switch, it's a brake pedal position sensor. Now, did you know when you go to replace that, you need to reset it in two modules? You have to do in the engine module and in the body control module. So if I were to do that manually, I can go in engine and then functional tests. And I believe it is in output controls, maybe? No, it's not in output controls. It is in module setup. No, it's not module setup. Where is it? See, I don't even necessarily know where it is. So output, it must be in output controls. All right, there it is. BPP sensor learn. It was in there. Never mind. BPP sensor learn. Hit continue. Hit learn. You're done. Then you got to back out, and then we got to go to the body control module, which is down here, and functional tests. Output controls again on that one. Brake pedal position sensor learn. Apply the parking brake. Start the learn procedure. Hit learn, done. Simple as that. But that took an awful lot of clicks and I had to find it, right? Been a little while. If I go into service resets and relearns though, and I go down to brakes, there's replace or relearn brake pedal position sensor. Functional resets, and then there's the one in the engine, and there's the one in the body control module. So I can just pop in there. Boom. Pop in there. Different module. Boom. Done. Saves a ton of time. And it's things like, you know, if I've adjusted the ignition time, if I'd replaced the fuel injector, it might be something I need to do there. What do I need to do if I replace the fuel injector on this thing? Might need functional tests for that. Might need the pressurized fuel system. Might need to do the automated injector balance with that, right? So it's not necessarily a reset or a relearn. It is any functional tests that are related to that job. So pretty helpful. All right. Next is on our fast track intelligent diagnostics tools, which would be Zeus, Triton, Apollo, any of those varieties of tool. They link problems to solutions. So this is going to be a quick way, a quick repeatable diagnostic workflow that you can use to help you diagnose codes. So it enables the technician to complete your repair quickly and confidently, begins with retrieving a code, then lays out the most productive workflow for that code. So this is exclusive to Snap-on, of course, like I said. So we're going to have codes with full descriptions, top repairs, which we already saw, filtered TSBs, so that's going to be TSBs based on that code. For example, on this BMW, there was a code that it had 654 TSBs available for the car, filtered it down to the one that's relative to that problem. We also have filtered data that flags out of spec PIDs. So that is our smart data that is based on billions of data PIDs that are out there. So for example, on this Volkswagen had a problem, had 404 PIDs you would have had to sort through normally. Filters it down to just the 3 that you need. Don't need the rest. You don't need 401 other PIDs on this car. You just need the 3 that I care about for that one code on that one problem on that car. Functional tests, same deal, filters it down. So a Camry might have 482 functional tests available. It filters it down to the 6 that are needed for the code that we're working on. Filter component tests, same deal. Silverado, 395 component tests available, filters it down to the 10 that I need just for that problem. And then down the bottom, we have our SureTrack information. So that's our related content. So our real fixes we talked about earlier, complaint cause correction. Related real fixes ranked from most to least. And then our troubleshooter information. Remember how we talked about that ground strap? That's where that troubleshooter information is stored. So any of our fast track intelligent diagnostic tools would have this readily available to you right on the screen as soon as you check a code. And as far as our scope enabled tools, this is one of my favorite features and functions on a Snap-on tool. And I think I know for sure it is underutilized. So remember, scanner's a directional tool, guided component tests are a pinpoint tool. This is going to allow us to test the component directly and see what's going on with it. So there's now over 8 million guided component tests. I need to update that. And there's also classes available on the tool. So guided component test information tells me how to hook it up, where to hook it up, and what it should look like on the screen. You're going to know if the component is faulty before you buy it, before you replace it. For this example, it's a signature test. There's a crank sensor, and there's what it looks like connected to it, and there's what it looks like, what a known good is, and gives us those examples. So for this one, let's go live. Go live on my Zeus again. Guided component tests. So before I pick a vehicle, we can also go into classes. So I didn't have a slide for this, but we have power user test, features and benefits, and how to. And in here, you're going to have access to all these different classes. NOx accumulator class, pressure transducer diagnostic class. How about that? Shows us how to walk through and do a running compression test with a pressure transducer. Let's see, common rail diesel injection class, smart charge, smart Snap-on automotive theory, right? AC, hybrid vehicles, LIN bus, diagnosing battery draws, etc. All sorts of good information in there. Now I want to pick, let's see, I'm going to pick my car, my other car. So I'll pick up, oops, 22, I guess I got to go back to, there we go. Telluride. Okay, so we have, once we load a vehicle, it's going to give us all the systems on that vehicle we can test stuff on. So it's more than just the engine. We got body electrical, ABS, transmission, ADAS, depends on the vehicle. Let's pop in the engine. And I want to look at the cam sensors on this thing. So on this vehicle, there are 4 cam sensors, and there's a location image for this. So here is where the it is on the engine, and then there it is close up. There's the intake bank 2 in that case. And then we have component information. It's going to give us our pinouts on each one. It's going to show us what each one does. Reference voltage, cam signal, and ground, depending on the example. And then it's going to tell you where it's located. So rear of engine assembly, left side of engine assembly, right side, left side. It's going to show us where each one of them is. And it's a Hall effect type sensor. And then if I want, I can go into signature test, for example, and it is going to show me what a known good pattern is. And then I would hit view meter. It would automatically set up the meter for me. I don't have it plugged in right now, but it would set up the voltage, set up the time, and when I'm hooked up to the vehicle, I should see this on the screen. If I do, then I know it's good. If I don't, then it's either not working or I hooked it up incorrectly. There's really only 2 options there. But that is exclusive as well. Right? So we have this database of over 8 million tests, and they all will tell you what good is. Whether or not it shows a picture depends on the test, like key on engine cranking. And that example, that gives me a good one as well. Out of range signal test is going to tell me voltage, right? Key on should be about 5 volts, depending on what it is. So it's going to tell you what it is. It might not necessarily show you, but it's always going to tell you what good is on those particular tests. So that's got a component test. One more feature and function. It's going to be our scan data feature. So this will be available across the board on any of our scan tools from the MT2600 all the way up to the Zeus Plus. And it's been this way for a very long time, and the software has been available to do this for a very long time as well, at least a few years. So one example is I can build data lists based on multiple data lists. So instead of having one, many vehicles have, could be half a dozen different data lists on the vehicle. So we can go in and we can make a custom list based across all those different lists. You can see engine management, emissions, etc. And these are the vehicles that we can do it on. So Acura, BMW, Chrysler, Dodge, Ford, Honda, Jeep, Lexus, Mazda, Mercedes, Nissan, Ram, Scion, Subaru, and Toyota. Sometimes the manufacturer just doesn't have it. Sometimes it's just one big list. Like on some vehicles, it's just one big list that you have to choose. You could just there's no separate lists, so you don't need to build it across lists. It's just one list. And then another thing is going to be our PID triggers. So we set a maximum and minimum value. If it ever goes outside of that value, it automatically save it for you. So that's a good way to save a road test. So if I'm driving along and I'm waiting for something to drop out and it drops out, then I'll know. And it will save it for me automatically. I could also use this as a save button on the tool. So if I find a PID that's on off, like say, for example, my cruise control switch, and I'm driving along and then all of a sudden that a PID goes out or his car starts bucking and driving weird, I can just hit the cruise control enable button. It'll go into the green and then it'll save the data for me and then I can see what's going on before it happened, what goes on after it happened. So let's walk through how to do that on the screen. So let's see. So Kia was not one of them. So I'm going to pull up like a Honda. Let's see. Oh, like a 22. Let's do an Accord. VTEC hybrid. Well, yeah, why not? Do a hybrid. Go into engine. And we'll go into data. And you see how I got most used powertrain, et cetera, et cetera. So I got what? 7 different lists. So I want to make a custom list. So I'm going to go to custom up here. And then you see most used data is checked off. So let's say I wanted to look at just these couple of things here. And then a couple things, not full powertrain data. Let's say I wanted to look at this and this and this. And then I wanted to go in here and look at, let's say, this and this. And on this one, this and this. And then you can see it turns bold when I have something in there that I've picked. Let's do RPM, idle stop, and then under emissions, do these 2 things. Sure. And then we'll go over to list view, and I'll see that's just the master list that I picked based on across all those different PID lists. That's the master list that I got out of the deal. Now in this example, what do we got? All right. So I want to set a PID trigger on this one. So I'm going to set it so it triggers if it goes up above that. So I'm going to go to setup and get my trigger on. Make a minimum of, let's say 50 and a max of 106. And it's going to tell me if it's armed. We'll hit save. And I need to arm it. And then when it goes over, right there, it's going to beep. It's going to turn red. And it's going to say, hey, that's where it triggered right there. So you set a maximum and minimum. If it ever goes outside of the max or the minimum, you will see that it will make a red line. It will also make a dotted red line on the other PIDs that did not cause the problem, but you can see how it affects other different PIDs as well. And then you might have seen on the screen how it automatically saved it for me. Now, how would I do this on a not a Zeus? Well, let's pop into my Triton here. And let's do it on the Triton. So let's pull up same vehicle. We'll do a Honda. There's a 22. Civic. That wasn't a Accord. Doesn't really matter. Honda's a Honda, right? We're going to engine. And we're going to data. And there's our different categories. We're going to most used. And then you'll see up here on the top right, I have a little check mark. Check mark. It's going to pull all that different information. It looks pretty similar to the way it did on the Zeus there, but we're going to have to pick a couple different things here. A couple different things there. Let's do this, maybe this and this. And of course, there's a lot of data on that one, so I got to scroll down a bit. I also use the caret to close it, but and let's pick some from here. There we go. And then what you have to do, don't hit back, hit the check mark, and the check mark will confirm it. And then there's my smaller list, right? I can't scroll. It's just 8. I picked 8 PIDs, and there's 8 PIDs on the screen, right? So that is how to set that up on that. And then if I wanted to set up PID triggers, it's a lot easier to do in graph mode. We'll put it in graph mode. And we'll do the same thing. We'll do engine speed RPM. So in order to do that, we go up to the lines and set trigger. And you'll see how I have it set up there so that it's using the arrows down here. I'm going to bring it down a little bit. Hit continue. And then I'm going to bring that one down outside of it so it doesn't trigger on the bottom side. And we'll hit continue again. And then we'll go over, and now I see gray lines on my graph. There's the max, there's the minimum. I go up to my icon again. Arm triggers. They turn purple. We let it roll for a bit. It's going to trigger here in a second. So close. There it goes. All right, so triggered. I get a red line there. I get a green line on all the others. So I can see where it triggered and how it affected it. And then it's going to scroll for a little bit longer, and then it'll automatically save it as well for me. All right, so that is our scan data functions on that. There it goes, saved it. All right, so that is my information for the evening. Hopefully you picked up a few tips and tricks on there. There are some things that are free that are readily available that you might not even realize that you had access to. So the key point is make sure you're on Wi-Fi. That's the first part. Make sure everything's set up in your free Snap-on account. You can use Altus Drive to share stuff. You can manage your tools from there. You can manage your uploads from there, security link from there, everything. And then there are tool-by-tool specific things that you can access that a lot of folks don't realize are readily available to them on the tool. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about next week. Last class of the year. We are going to almost finish out. We do have one more after this, but we're going to do our OEM-specific ADAS training on Subaru. Subaru is the next manufacturer that we'll be doing that on. So come check it out next week. We're going to talk about what is unique about Subaru, and there is a lot unique about how Subaru does their ADAS stuff because they have their EyeSight system, which is unique in the industry. So it's a stereo camera system. They have all sorts of patents on it and stuff like that. Works very well. So we'll talk all about that. Same time as always. Next Tuesday, 6 and 9 Eastern, or every Tuesday at 6 and 9 Eastern. If you want to join on Zoom, go to snapon.com/OT. You can always sign up there. Also, if you want to join us on YouTube, the 6 p.m. Eastern class goes live to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Snap-on Diagnostics. And the 9 p.m. Eastern class goes live to our Facebook page. It's Snap-on Diagnostics Product and Training. So go give us a follow over there. If you want to scan that QR code, it'll automatically bring you to the YouTube channel and subscribe you for ease of use. If you want to see any of the other episodes in this series, this is episode 128 we're filming right now. Anywhere from intro to ADAS to OEM-specific ADAS training on Volvo, EVAP system diagnostics, etc. All readily available on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Snap-on Diagnostics. There's a playlist for live training. Let's go check it out there. Also, do we have your email address? If we do not have your email address, you may be missing out on some important information when it comes to diagnostics. So technical focus articles, SureTrack blogs, quick tips, new product releases. They send out my schedule periodically, I think quarterly, so you can see what's coming up. So if you do not get those, make sure you scan that QR code. It'll bring up another little form you can fill out your particulars, and that will get you started on those lists. All right, now it's time for questions. If you do have a question and you're on Zoom, just find that Q&A button. If you're on the YouTube, make sure you use the live chat function. Not a ton of people on tonight, so I kind of figured it might be might be a little slow this week because Christmas and all that. We are filming this Christmas week, so. Jay McCall says, I like how it saved the data to view later. Yep, that's great. So having those triggers on there automatically saves it. You don't need to worry about it if it goes out of spec. Beautiful. And you're very welcome. And then Nick is very active from the UK. It is very late out there. It is Christmas Eve. So enjoy your holiday if you wait for next time. And Nick picked up a few tips and tricks there as well. So also, as Nick says, Merry Christmas to everybody. And I would have to say Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night as well. So thank you very much for spending a little bit of time with me. Hopefully you learned a few little tips and tricks that you did not know about your Snap-on Scan tool. You can always go back and check if you missed anything. Rewatch it. Watch the steps to do it. So with that, enjoy the rest of your week. As I'm filming right now, it is Christmas week in the world. So if you're hopefully you have a wonderful Christmas and a happy New Year. If I don't see you, and I'll see you next year. I'll see you next week, but I'll definitely see you next year, hopefully. So enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend. Have a nice night, and take care.